What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Starting the show an hour later than I normally do. Hey, it's, what is it? It's Thursday, January the 14th, 2021, 12:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McCrae, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 134 of MCRAE Live. And today I want to talk about the psychological thriller, The Invitation, from 2015, I think, 16, somewhere around there. This is a movie I have not seen until yesterday, last night. I'm very late to the party on this one, and I'm glad I sat down and watched it. I've been meaning to watch it for quite some time, and I did. And I just wanted to give you my first impression thoughts on The Invitation. Now, if you're watching after the fact, spoiler alert. If you have not seen the movie, if you're planning on seeing the movie, if you don't want to know anything about the movie, then don't watch this stream. Don't watch this video. Go away, watch the movie, then come back and watch this, because we will always be here. Or this video, I should say, will always be here. So The Invitation, let me just bring this up here. I want to just, so it says 2015. The Invitation 2015. It's got 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, but there's a discrepancy though. 89% on, so nearly 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, but that's the critics. But the audience is 70% essentially. So there's about a 10% discrepancy between the audience and the critics. There's usually always something like that anyway. But The Invitation essentially is, this is from IMDb. For those of you that don't know what even this movie's about, maybe you do, maybe you've seen it. A man accepts an invitation to a dinner party hosted by his ex-wife. It's kind of strange. An unsettling affair that reopens old wounds and creates new tensions. That doesn't really tell you really anything, but that's all right. The movie, of course, stars Logan Marshall Green, Tammy Blanchard, and Mike Doyle and Michelle Krusik, I think is how you say that. Aidan Lovekemp. It's an independent film shot for, I think the budget was about $1 million. Let me see here. Budget was estimated budget. They are not saying here on IMDb. Maybe they have it on Wikipedia. Wikipedia says about $1 million. Yeah, box office 354,000. Wasn't a big release or anything. Distribution essentially went to streaming. But this was a movie that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I had seen, it's been on Netflix for a while, and I sat down last night. I'd finished, we're obviously still in post-production on It's Me, Billy, and so I was taking a break from that. It was about 11:30 actually last night when I decided to watch this. So I sat down. I was looking for something to watch. I'm very picky. I'm very, very picky. It's as you guys know. I'm not. It depends on the mood I'm in. I mean, I can sit down and watch a fluff fart film as well and enjoy the hell out of it. And what do I mean by a fluff fart film? Well, I mean, one you don't got to think about. You know, you just pop it in and it's, you know, like just a dumb comedy or a predictable romantic comedy or a predictable horror movie, you know, something that's lame, but it's just kind of fun to watch because it's just, you know, whatever, right? It kills 2 hours. I can watch those movies too. I mean, I'm not, you know, it's not like I got to watch something cerebral all the time. But as I've said, the older I get, the more that I appreciate this type of horror, this type of cycle. Now, this is, and again, if you're just joining us here, folks, and you've not seen The Invitation, look at the thumbnail, look at the title, spoilers in big capital letters. So I just want you guys to know that I will be spoiling the hell out of it. I'm not somebody that, again, I'm not a movie reviewer, but if I was, I probably wouldn't do non-spoiler review and spoiler review. And I understand why certain reviewers do it. I understand why certain people do it. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one is it's good for the audience. I get it. Number two is it's, you know, it increases your views. If you have a spoiler review and a non-spoiler, you know, review, it's like, you know, you're double dipping the chip. So, I mean, I get it. I understand it. But I'm not somebody that likes to talk about something that I love or hate in a wish-washy roundabout way. No, I just want to fucking talk about it. I just want to talk about it. But I just want to talk. I'd rather not talk about it and wait 6 weeks and then talk about it. But I'm not a movie reviewer. So maybe if I was, I'd feel a bit differently. So anyways, I'm going to spoil the fuck out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, don't watch this. And you've been warned. You've been warned. And I will keep reiterating it throughout the show today. But it is in the thumbnail. It is in the description. So hopefully you've seen it. Anyway, so The Invitation is a psychological thriller from 2015 that essentially, I'd seen it on Netflix and I had passed by it several times. And I just decided to watch it last night. And I really knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about it, other than what Netflix presented in their little blurb, which is usually always like nothing. And I was like, okay, so essentially what I read to you from IMDb is exactly what essentially Netflix has, which is a man accepts an invitation to a dinner party, okay, hosted by his ex-wife. Okay, that's weird. An unsettling affair that reopens old wounds and creates new tensions. That's pretty much what I knew going in. And, the film is the man, Will is his name, has moved on, obviously. He's got a girlfriend, and they are an interracial couple. So that's kind of a nice kind of angle to it. And he's white, she's black. She's very pretty. And all the women in the movie are pretty. Everybody, but it's not distractingly so. Like it's not like everybody's attractive, but it's not like a archetypal sort of thing. It's just you just buy it, you know what I mean? Anyway, because sometimes that kind of stuff can take me out of horror movies if I see people that are too fake attractive. It's like, yeah, people just don't look like this. You know what I mean? It's not like that. So that was good. But essentially, and again, I'm going to spoil this. And again, I'm not a movie reviewer. I'm just telling you my thoughts on what I watched. He goes to this dinner party that is being hosted by his ex-wife and his ex-wife's new partner. And they're invited, and they're mutual. They were obviously married at one point, right? And so they have mutual friends. And Will and his new girlfriend are invited to this dinner party in the Hollywood Hills. So it was cool to see that environment. Now, whether it was actually shot in the Hollywood Hills or not, I don't know. But certainly a lot of the establishing shots were. And having been all through there many times myself, it's always cool to see places you've been. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's exactly what it looks like up there. Like if you've seen The Invitation, you see them driving into the Hollywood Hills and the narrow roads, and that's exactly what it looks like. I've been all through there many times. It looks exactly like that. So that's always kind of cool. So they go to this house, and there's clearly tension, obviously, between, Will, his ex-wife. It's weird, right? It's a weird sort of environment. Everybody's acting weird, overly nice, but Will is clearly suffering from psychological trauma. And there's obviously a past between him and his wife that you are not privy to yet as an audience member, but you are naturally learning what that is through the execution of the movie. And psychological trauma, like clearly Will is, he's the least, he just doesn't really want to be, you can tell he doesn't want to be there. He's uncomfortable, but everybody's kind of, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? Everybody's sort of talking inconspicuously about, hey, we know it's been a while since the incident, and whatever, right? And you're really not sure what this is, right? And this house that he goes to he used to live in this house with his ex-wife, the woman that is there now with her new lover. And so that's just kind of, so the premise at first, I was like, I would never do that. I would never do that. So there's got to be something that is drawing him to, because the premise of that alone, I'm like, I would never do that. Right now, if one of my, and then again, I've never been married and I don't have children and I don't like, but I would never do that. I would never, it's weird, right? Like it's, would you do that? You're with somebody else and your ex-girlfriend or wife invites you to a dinner party. Would you go with your current girl? That's weird. Awkward. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of weird, right? So there had to be something there that allowed me as an audience member to believe that this character would take that risk, would do that his girlfriend would be supportive of it. Right. Now, everybody's different. Everybody's different. I mean, there are people out there that have no issues with you continuing to have a friendship with your ex. I mean, I'm not that kind of person. That would make me feel extraordinarily uncomfortable if my significant other was still friends with their ex. That's just me. I feel incredibly, I don't think that's appropriate. That's wildly uncomfortable. But we know that in this world, there are people that exist that can do that. Okay, whatever tickles your fancy, right? So for me, I was looking for that. I was like, I got to believe that this would be something that he would do and something she would be like, what is it, right? It's not just a dinner party, right? It's not just that his ex-wife is inviting them to the house for a dinner party because we haven't seen, each other in a long time. And maybe there's clearly psychological, especially Will, and we learn through the process of the movie that obviously Eden is his ex-wife's name, that she is suffering from some sort of psychological effect as well, but she's doing a better job of masking it. But she has this fake sort of persona, right? That she's all happy and, whatever. And Will, obviously being that whatever fucking thing went down happened to them at this house, right? A house where he used to live. It used to be his house, not his house, but his house, if you know what I mean. And so when he goes into the house, I get the sense it's been a couple years since he's been there. The house is reminding him of, there's a lot of memories there. The shit that went down actually happened there, whatever it was yet. And we as an audience member don't know that yet, right? We're like, well, what is this, right? And everyone's like, oh, hey, Will, what's going on? And the performances are great. And there's an eerie, uncomfortable weirdness to everybody right out of the gate. Right. And we most identify with Will. And that's no doubt intentional. I think we are Will in that scenario, in the sense of it's like, what are we doing here? Like, why am I here? Right. But he's got his other friends there, right? The mutual friends. Anyway, it's interesting. It's just an interesting sociological dynamic. So I just find it, fascinating. So I was hooked by that. And I like the fact that there's more that we don't know. Like I said, it's not just a dinner party. There's more, because you're like, okay, now I believe that he's gone there, not just because his ex-wife invited him. He's gone there for other reasons. There's other reasons why he's gone there, right? Reasons he may not have shared with his current girlfriend, reasons he may not even have shared with himself consciously. They may be subconscious reasons. And so I like that, because now I can believe it a bit more, that maybe he's looking for something, some sort of closure, some sort of, you believe it a bit more, right? And whatever happened is fucking like serious shit. Okay. And his ex-wife, new lover, I think his name is David too, if I'm not mistaken. Is it David? Let me just see here. I had the cast up here. I think it's, it's David. Played by, is it Mikkel? Maybe it's Mikkel, maybe that's how you say that. I don't think it's Michael, or it's a weird way of spelling Michael. Anyway, so David is overly nice, and he's strange. He's a little strange, and John Carroll Lynch is in this movie too. If you don't know who John Carroll Lynch is, just Google his name. You'll recognize the actor. He's a great character actor. He was in Zodiac. He's been in a bunch of shit. And he usually plays the kind of character he is in The Invitation. But he's a great character actor, and he's in the movie as well. So, long story short, the movie's got great tension. you know there's something weird that's going on. And if you're just joining me, by the way, folks, I'm talking about the 2015 psychological thriller, The Invitation. If you've not seen it and you don't want it spoiled, do not continue to listen to me. I'm going to spoil the hell out of it. I don't do, and this is not a formal movie review. This is just me giving my impressions on the film, but I'm going to talk spoilers. I don't like dancing around shit. I just want to fucking talk about the movie. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it and then come back and watch the show, because the show will always be there. You don't have to watch me live. You can watch after the fact too. So essentially through the course of the movie, we find out that Eden and Will had a son, and the son died from a horrible accident. And I believe it was an accident, I think, if memory serves. The chat room who have seen the show can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was an accident. So, but there's a lot of guilt between the two, and they're both handling it in their own ways. And I gather that part of the reason why they are exes is because of the death of their son. And so the psychological residual effects and the ramifications of the death of their son was just too much. And there was probably other shit that went down prior to that as well. I'm sure there were, but they just, whatever. So that's cool that you find out that this is what these characters are dealing with. Okay. And then it makes sense of why maybe there was another reason why he wanted to go. But his wife, his ex-wife, has handled it in her own way. And she's met this guy named David, who ends up essentially getting her involved, spoiler alert, your last chance here, in some sort of cult. Okay. And new agey sort of cult. There's a lot of, like, folks, one thing you have to understand is that when we think of cult, and rightly so, I get it, we tend to think of like the most extreme version of a cult. Do you know what I mean? And like, Charles Manson, or like, what's his face that got everybody to drink the Kool-Aid, or David Koresh, or like, we tend to think of like a religious cult, right? But in a lot of cases, and what I've learned over the years too, is that there's many forms of cults that aren't necessarily religious. Like, some people might even say that certain MLMs, like multi-level marketing shit, can be culty to a degree. There's a lot of shit. And sometimes good people, good meaning people get involved in the shit, and they don't even know they're in it until they're in it. And that's like, oh my fucking God, right? There's a lot of different kinds of cults that, and if you have a charismatic leader who knows how to talk and spin shit and, who can get inside your head, you can who's very manipulative and persuasive, and oh my God, it can be insane. So she's met this guy, David, who's very much into this, and has sort of wrapped her into this, and they went to Mexico and they did this whole thing or whatever. And so at this dinner party, now Will has never met David. He's like new on the block. And David, John Carroll Lynch is a friend that shows up, is a friend of David's that shows up. And so they're not mutual friends. Like, they never knew each other when Eden and Will were married, right? They just they're new. But Will is sort of suspicious of David, because he's like, everybody's overly nice, right? Like, it's okay, man. No, don't worry, stay. But if you pay attention, there are things that these characters are doing that prove to be problematic throughout the rest of the movie. Anyway, so it's the kind of thing, well, it's not quite like this. It's not quite like this, but it's in this kind of vein, right? Where some of my favorite horror, and I say horror with quotes because, there's different subgenres. I wouldn't classify this as like a horror film. It's more of a psychological thriller. But one of my favorite types of movies like this is I like mood and atmosphere, right? But is when nothing particularly creepy is happening, but you still feel creeped out watching it. You feel uneasy. You feel that tension. And The Invitation does a really good job of that. Now, yeah, it does a really good job of it. And so I enjoyed knowing that there's something not right here. And there's something not right. But yet things feel kind of normal at the same time, but they're really not. And it's really weird and whatever. And so anyways, David decides to end up it's a dinner party, right? So let's play some games. Let's do this, whatever. So David decides to show them a video, and they make the joke, oh, this isn't like a cult video, is it? Or whatever. You guys were a cult. He's like, no, it's not that kind of thing. Yeah, no, it clearly is. It clearly is. And he shows them a video, and it's very new agey, and they watch someone die not like horrifically, but someone die in their bed there, and they're doing all the new agey shit that it's just totally a cult. Like, nobody would watch a video like that and go, oh no, this is great. Hey, how much? When do I sign up? Nobody, right? And everybody is kind of like, this is kind of weird. This kind of weird. Why would you show us that? Whatever. And from that moment forward, I realized, oh yeah, okay, so it's this kind of movie. Because again, I didn't know this going into the movie. I had no idea. And so it's this kind of movie. Okay, cool, interesting. Because there's quite a few films over the last several years that I've watched that deal with that kind of thing. And I always find it fascinating. So I'm like, okay, I wonder where they're going to go with it, right? So anyway, so Will is dealing with, and again, it's like, when I watched this, I was thinking to myself, I would just get up and fucking leave. But then again, but that's me. But the reason why Will doesn't get up and leave is because of the psychological ramifications. He's drawn emotionally to the house. He feels a connection there to his son. His friends are there. He knows something's off, but he's not quite sure what it is, and he's a bit emo about it. But he plays it really well. And but I am thankful that one of the friends, I forget the actor's name now. Let me see if I can get her. I think she was that her? Is it Maria Delfino? Claire? Was that it? I don't see anybody else that looks like her. Maybe that was her. I think that might have been her. Anyway, one of the friends is so creeped out by the fact that they showed this video that she decides to leave. And she is like, no, I'm sorry. And they're like, no, stay. It's okay. Really stay. Come on. And they're trying to convince her to stay, right? And she does leave. And I'm really happy that she left. Now, I don't want to get it. I don't want to spoil every single thing. I'm just going through sort of the main points. But she does decide to leave. And I think that's believable. I like that the writers decide to have a character that decides to leave, because somebody would. I mean, it's just too creepy and weird and you wouldn't stay. But the rest of the people do. And the movie continues to go on, and you feel kind of like, what's going on here? Like, there's something not right. And they're having cake, and they're having something to eat, and there's weird conversations. And then they play like a weird game of have I ever, never, no, what is the game called? I never have, or whatever it is. I never played it. It was after me, but it was, but they play an alternate version of that, and that gets kind of weird, and it's weird, and it's very strange, but through the process of Will coming to terms with the death of his son in this house, and him noticing weird and unusual things from an objective point of view, he starts to piece things together. And that the very last thing, they have wine throughout the evening. There's a grooming process. And the funny thing is that this is sort of, again, it's stylized, it's a movie. But what cult leaders do, whether it's a religious cult or a multi-level marketing cult, or there's many different types of cults out there, folks. There is a grooming process. There is a process where they make you feel that you're in control. They make you feel that you're in control, that you at any point in time can leave. If you want to go, right? Whatever, right? You know what I mean? But there's psychological games they play that they make you feel without even realizing it, guilty for leaving, or that you made something you don't really want to do. Right? There's a whole psychology around it, and there's a grooming process. And of course, this is a movie where it's a story they have to tell in 90 minutes, right? But through the night, they're serving wine and they're playing games and they're showing videos and they're talking and no, it's okay. It's this. It's fascinating to watch the grooming process to make you feel comfortable. They get you drinking alcohol, right? Because what happens when you drink alcohol, right? Your inhibition's lower, you feel more comfortable, more relaxed. You know what I'm saying? It's fascinating. And then all that is legit. It's real alcohol. It's not tainted. There's nothing in it. Real food, nice, great food, a nice, cake and shit. But anyway, so through and again, I'm just going through the main points here. I'm not a movie reviewer. As you can, thank God I'm not, because I'd be like 9-hour fucking videos. Anyway, I'll leave it to the people that do it better than me. So, but I love talking about this stuff from more deeper angles. So eventually what ends up happening is that Will obviously begins to piece things together. And when he goes, they all begin to have, they all sort of, after the cake is done, they all decide, not they all, but Eden and David decide to serve I don't know if it's one last glass of wine or whatever it is, but it's a glass of wine, but it's like not very much in the glass and it's kind of half full and they serve it or whatever. And Will begins to realize, oh my God, like he and by this point too, if you've been paying attention, you as the audience begin to piece it together as well, right? Like you sit there and you think, oh shit. And if you've been paying attention, watching and the clues and the little, in the video and you realize, oh my God, they're going to kill them all. This is like is it Jim Jones? Yeah, Jonestown. That's the one in the late 70s or whatever it was, or early 80s, where everybody drank the cyanide, that's where the phrase "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from that, actually, because I believe it was mixed. Was it cyanide? It was mixed in Kool-Aid, I think. So if you've ever heard the phrase, don't drink the Kool-Aid, in reference to whatever, right? Because it becomes like a phrase now, it becomes saying. That's where it comes from. I believe that's where it comes from. It comes from that incident in Jonestown, 40 years ago, whatever it was, where there was that mass suicide where hundreds of people all drank. Now they knew they were going to die, though. That's the thing. I think they did. If memory serves, I believe they knew they were going to die. And there were some people that didn't want to do it, and they were murdered. They were shot and killed. Children did it. Parents did it. And it was insane. If you don't know the story, look it up. Jonestown, look it up. Like there's photos. It's fucking crazy, right? They knew they were going to die, and they drank this Kool-Aid mixed with, I believe, cyanide or some sort of poison, obviously. And it's scary shit. It's scary shit. And imagine having the power. Imagine having the power to convince a ton of people to murder themselves by drinking Kool-Aid. Like, it's just insane to me, right? Like that kind of power, that kind of psychological power. Anyway, so this is like a very sort of lower scale version of that, okay? But that I began to realize as soon as they started to serve that, I was like, oh my, because I've been paying attention to the movie, obviously. I'm like, shit, they're going to kill them. Everybody's going to die here. This is like a mini Jonestown that's happening right now, right? And Will catches on and he's like, don't fucking drink the wine, and he smashes the wine glasses and things like that. And one of the girls that's in on it is like, you ruined everything or whatever. But then like, you're still not quite sure because there was something that happened a few minutes before that you thought he was right about and he wasn't right about. And now you're kind of like, is he right about this or not or whatever? He is right about it because one of the girls that did take a sip starts foaming at the mouth and she dies, and then shit hits the fan, right? And then now the cat's out of the bag and there's gunfire going off and there's this little cat and mouse chase through the house with David and what was John Carroll Lynch's character's name again? The fuck? Pruitt. Pruitt is his name. John Carroll Lynch's Character's name is Pruitt. And so like there's this cat and mouse chase between throughout the house with Pruitt and David and Will and Eden and Will's girlfriend's name, which was Kira, I think. And so because all the doors are locked and shit and they got it. And now, of course, the film has hit its climactic peak and you're seeing, the end result. I won't tell you exactly how it ends, but it's an interesting ending. I actually think that I like the ending. Actually, I know for some people it was anticlimactic. It's not a movie that's going to resonate with everybody, right? I mean, psychological thrillers that are a little cerebral in nature, that are more of a thinking man's type of movie. It is not for everybody. I mean, there are people that like that kind of thing. There are people that don't. For me, this is the kind of horror that I like because it's psychological. And there's nothing scarier than the unknown or the psychological or getting in here and all. And I love that kind of stuff, right? So I thought it was a great movie. I was pleasantly surprised because I'm very picky and I've watched movies on Netflix that I've stopped halfway through. This is trash because most of the movies on Netflix are garbage. Because Netflix is not a quality platform, they're a quantity platform, right? So they have to dish out there are billions of dollars in debt for that reason, because they also make a lot of money too, but I'm just saying that they have everything under the sun, movies you've never heard of, movies that are ass, and they just throw anything at the wall, and not that The Invitation is a Netflix original, it's not, but they will either create content that's anything and everything, or they will buy the distribution rights to be able to distribute, whatever, as much fucking shit as. I'm not saying they're not selective. I mean, obviously they are, but they're saturated with garbage, right? And then every now and then you come across one that's really good. And The Invitation was one that I was really surprised with. And I like the ending. I like the moment where you kind of go, oh shit, they're going to kill them. That's what this is all about. They've invited them to the house to kill them. You know what I mean? And that's really cool. And so I really like the movie a lot. And if you haven't seen The Invitation, now Netflix Canada and Netflix US, in terms of the libraries, the look is the same, but in terms of the library and what we have, I know can vary a bit differently. Like there are some movies that we have on Netflix. It's not called Netflix Canada, but I'm just saying it's just called Netflix here too. But in the Netflix here, I know there are some movies we might have that you guys don't. And then there are some movies that you guys have that we don't. So check it out if it's on Netflix. It probably is. And if you haven't seen it, watch it. Of course, I've just spoiled the hell out of it now. But if you're like me, if you're the kind of person, because see, there are some people that can't hear anything. And they just, I don't want to fucking know anything. They can't hear anything. And any little thing just ruins everything for them. I'm somebody that can know, like I could know how Halloween Kills ends. I could know everything there is to know about Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends or any movie for that matter. Unless it's something that is like, I can still know the gist of a movie and enjoy the journey watching it. Right? It takes a lot to spoil a movie for me. Like, unless, as I've said before, there's something so crucial that it's just a 180 of everything. You're like, I would have liked to have seen that and felt that emotional impact watching the movie for the first time. But in terms of like just beats, this happens and then this happens and then this happens and then they go here and then they go up there and then they talk to this person and then that I don't give a fuck about that. I don't care. I don't care. Whatever. You know what I mean? I can still enjoy the journey of watching that play out. So, but anyway, yeah, The Invitation from 2015, really, really cool psychological thriller. I enjoyed it. If you like that kind of movie, if you like creepy, eerie, I think the acting for the most part was really good. Again, there is, and there was for me, and there probably will be for you too, moments where you go, why would you stay? Like, why would you even bother staying? But I think, like I said, I think the fact that they made the main guy, Will, have these psychological ramifications. He's psychologically tortured. I think he's torn because he wants to be there. He feels like he should stay there because he wants to, it's where his son died. He's not over his son. It's affected his life. It's affected his marriage. It caused the breakup. He's with a new girl. It's a whole kind of like, he probably does want to leave, but he feels torn because, well, I guess everything's okay. I'm not really sure, until of course he realizes things are definitely not okay. But so I was okay with that. It's very believable. And yeah, check it out. The Invitation on Netflix if you haven't seen it. But I give it a solid thumbs up. I enjoyed it, and it's and the crazy thing is, this is the crazy thing. Now, I'm not saying that specifically is happening in terms of, although I'm sure it's happening somewhere in the world. People are invited over to a dinner party where they all drink the Kool-Aid and die. I mean, I'm not saying that is happening, but as I was watching this movie, that kind of thing, like cults and grooming and those kinds of videos and it's okay, la 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 la. Like, I mean, you've seen Midsommar, right? Or Midsummer, depending on how you want to. There's that kind of cult, right? That's a very obvious kind of thing. When you go there, they're isolated. Like, it's clearly a cult. They don't call themselves a cult. It's like a villain never refers to himself as a villain. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm the villain. Well, no, it's not, it's not how they see it, right? They really believe in what they're doing. They believe in they're doing God's work. They believe it. Now, the cult leader doesn't necessarily believe it as much as his disciples or people do, because for the cult leader, it's really all about power, right? It's about power and control. And very little to do with doing the right thing to a whatever God, you know what I mean? Now they spew that to everybody, and they make sure that that's the image they project, because that's how they gain the control of the people, right? But very rarely do you find them they actually live their. No, I mean, a lot of these people abuse children or would abuse kids if they had to, and rape children if they needed to under the name of God. I'm doing it. You can do fucking anything if God tells me to do it. And that's how they sort of spew that bullshit, right? So Midsummer, which I liked, I didn't like it as much as Hereditary. It's directed by the same guy. I didn't like it as much as Hereditary, but I liked it. I thought it was all right. And so there's that kind of call. But then there's the kind of shit that you see in The Invitation as well. And that kind of thing happens all the time. As I'm watching The Invitation, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, this could be happening right now in the Hollywood Hills, right now. I mean, it's Hollywood, it's LA, it's Los Angeles. It's one of the most powerful cities in the world in terms of, media, entertainment, money, power. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to Los Angeles, but I've been a couple of times, as you guys know. Actually, I've been a few times, as you guys know. And I mean, it's like you can smell the $1 million bills off the plane. You know what I mean? It's an interesting place to be. It's almost like a set. Like the whole place is like it's weird. It's beautiful, fucking gorgeous. But it almost feels like you're in some sort of like dream world. It's strange the way things look, and it's kind of funny. Anyway, and again, I'm not saying that people, I think we would have heard about it if there was a mass suicide of like 10 people in a house somewhere in the Hollywood Hills. But that kind of grooming is going on. And it's crazy, man. It's scary shit. And like I said, religious cults are not the only type of cults. I've watched some crazy MLM shit, and of course they would never say, no, this is really good. This is, most of the shit can be, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But anyway, if you're watching after the fact and you have seen The Invitation, comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know what you think of The Invitation. Let's head over to the chat room and see what you guys are talking about. I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great. And yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was good. I thought the performances were good. Oh, let me just put on my glasses here. Make sure my glasses are on. They are, oh, 1 second. Okay. There we go. They are on. There we go. All right. Michael Myers says, Dave, what are your thoughts on a new Indiana Jones video game being made? I don't know. I heard about it, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I did hear about it. Is it open world? You know what? I got to say, I think most games should be open world. But then again, I'm not a gamer, and I'm not the right person to ask, to be honest with you. I just like playing. I like the idea that in Grand Theft Auto, you can play the story. You can absolutely, play the missions and finish the game, or you can just fuck off and do whatever the hell you want. You can go and just have fun. And I like that too. I know they're making an open world Star Wars game. I heard about that. That fascinates me. That's cool. That's really cool. Like I would like to play the missions, or you can just fly around the galaxy and just, I don't know what open, is it Grand Theft Auto open world, or is it a different kind of open world where, no, you got to play the missions in a certain amount of time. You just go anywhere you want. I don't know. I just think it'd be great to just hop on the Millennium Falcon, fly around the universe. You don't have to fucking do anything. You just fly around, just be in sometimes part of the draw to certain games is just living and existing in the world, that you don't necessarily have to always play the missions where you have a certain time, and that's fun. But I have to admit, it's fun to just, because the graphics are so good now. Like if this was, 1987 or 1992, open world games would probably be less fun because the graphics don't look realistic. So it's just like, no, I want to play the game. I want to have the purpose and the levels and get the coins and get and save the princess, or, whatever the case is. But when you get to now, I mean, everything looks so real. Like everything's hyper real, that you can live vicariously. I'm not condoning this, but you can live vicariously. You can drive around a car and smash into things and, take out your gun and blow up cars on the street and because it looks so real, and you it's just funny. It's fun. It's fun to do this because it feels, and you can drive anywhere. You drive up to the hills, you can go anywhere, right? In Grand Theft Auto. That's my only sort of experience with an open world game. So that's my bar, but I love that shit. So if Star Wars was like that, I don't know if Indiana Jones would work well that way. I don't think Indiana Jones would work well as open world, because the whole purpose of you're on a mission. Like that's the whole purpose, right? Is to find the MacGuffin. So I don't know if that would really work, but Star Wars, if I could play the mission, or I could be like, fuck it. I'm on Tatooine right now. I'm going to take the Falcon. I'm going to fly to Jakku, or as Finn would say, Jakku. I'm gonna fly to Jakku, and I'm just gonna hang out there. I'm gonna go and fucking just land the Falcon and, whatever. I don't know, just hang out. I would love that, because it's like what it is you live vicariously, like it's you. That's actually, like, you're not actually Han Solo. It's you, and you're just living and existing in the world. It's like a fantasy come true. So the open Star Wars game really fascinates me. Indiana Jones, again, I don't know if it's going to be open world, but of course I'm down, but I'll have to see what it's like. The last Indiana Jones game I played, it's not like there's been a lot of them. Well, I did play Lego Indiana Jones. That was fun. But there was an Indiana Jones game, I think, for the PS2. And I remember you went to Prague and you went to certain places and you had missions and stuff. And that was fun. I think I beat that game. I think. It was like Indiana Jones and I had it. It was like Indiana Jones and the something. I think I beat the game. That was a cool game. Does anybody remember what that game was called? The Indiana Jones game for the PS2. Indiana Jones game for the PS2. I played that game and I liked it. I think I beat it. Let's see. Super chat comes in from David Lee Barron. David says, to our Lord and Savior, Pishe Christ, what are your thoughts on the Vatican? For some reason, I thought it was a misspelling of vacation for some reason. I was talking about the vacation movies. I've heard many dark and awful shady things going on. I listen, I mean, wherever there's power, there is likely corruption at some level. And I don't think the Vatican or Christianity is, we know it's not void of that. I mean, look at all the fucking priests that molest little boys. I mean, there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on. 100% in every religion, in everything. So I don't know the details. I'm not qualified in terms of my knowledge on the, like, to do like a deep cut. But there's no doubt that shady things go on there. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Wherever there is power, there is corruption on some level somewhere. Now, that doesn't mean that there's massive corruption at the highest level where it's just going to bring everything down, or, compartmentalized corruption, right? And a lot of people feel too, and this is what people have to understand in regards to like conspiracies and things like that, and to keep things quiet. People sometimes think that in order for a massive conspiracy to be true, thousands of people would have to know. That's not true. Not at all. For a conspiracy to take place, all a conspiracy means is that more than one person knows the truth about what's actually going on. So, I could get you to deliver something because you're a delivery driver or you work for my company, and I get you to deliver pizza to whatever, but you don't know the pizza's laced with poison, or with arsenic, and you deliver the pizza to somebody, and that person dies from eating the pizza, and then because we're in cahoots with the coroner's office, and maybe we have a little sway with the police, we know that the official report comes out that it was just food poisoning. But yet the business actually laced the pizza with, and you're not any of the wiser. You're not any of the wiser, but I know, because I'm the boss. I know I fucking murdered that guy. But you as my driver, you don't know that. You don't know that at all. It's not like I said, hey, Steve, take this poisonous pizza to Jim. No, this is not how it works. You know what I mean? So a lot of these types of things, I'm not saying that everything is a conspiracy in the world, but to pretend that conspiracies need thousands or hundreds of people to know about the truth, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not. No. A lot of these things are compartmentalized, and the same goes for cults and things like that, and corruption and all that. It's compartmentalized. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. People are just doing their jobs. You know what I mean? Or so they think. So you got to keep that in mind too. Did somebody, the Emperor P2 Indies game was the Emperor's Tomb. Okay, let me look this up. Wow. Indiana Jones, the Emperor's Tomb. Wow. Let me see if I recognize the cover. Yeah, that's it. That's so cool. Let me just see this. That's it. Yep. I had that. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's got to be it. I had it for, or was it, wait a minute, was it my PS2 or was it for, no, I didn't have an Xbox. Oh, no, I had an Xbox 360. I went PS2, Xbox 360, back to PS4. I have a PS4 right now. I haven't bothered to get the PS5 yet. I'll eventually get it, but yeah, that's it. Did I finish the game? Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't finish the game, because there's certain images here I'm not recognizing. God, the graphics have come such a long way. Like looking at these, like, do you remember when it was like, wow, it's fucking amazing. Like, can you imagine what an Indiana Jones game is going to look like now? Insane. I remember this. Yeah. The Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom style bar fight. I remember that because he's in his white tuxedo or whatever. That's so cool. Yeah. That's what it was. I thought I beat that game. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just got to a point where I stopped. I don't know. I can't remember. Gary Rangel says, Dave, what are your thoughts on the I Know What You Did Last Summer Amazon Prime series they are doing? Well, I think I talked a bit about this, or I mentioned that was going to be happening several months back. I did see an article with the cast that was announced. And I saw a photo, and the cast looked like children to me. Like they looked like they were like 13 or something. I don't know if they're just girls that are actually 19, but just look really young. I didn't really read too much further into it. I don't know. I'll leave it with me. I'm going to look into it more. And I want to find out sort of a little more details on it. And then maybe I'll do a MCRAE Live on it. I don't really know. It's strange. I don't know. I'm I would rather see, funny enough, I would rather see a sequel where you bring back Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. Wait, did Freddie Prinze Jr. die? And I still know what you did last summer? Maybe you did. I don't know. Anyway, an Amazon series. I don't care. I don't care. I really don't care. I have no interest, to be honest with you, but I'm definitely going to look into it because I know a lot of you guys do care. And I care, like I care, and I'm curious from a curiosity perspective, because obviously the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, which came out in 1997, that was, that was the late 90s slasher boom. That was the movie that got me into Jennifer Love Hewitt. For those of you that don't know, when I was a teenager, I was totally, my celebrity crush was Jennifer Love Hewitt. I had never seen, although she was on Party of Five before that, I didn't watch the show. And so when I went to see I Know What You Did Last Summer with Bruce, I remember watching the movie going, oh my God, who's this? And that was big for me because I was never really somebody that was that kind of a person where I always thought obviously that, actors or certain, women were, but I never had like that one, until Jennifer Love Hewitt. And then it became, I had her up in like my locker at school, and oh yeah, and she's still beautiful today. I mean, and we're the same age. She was born in 79 as well. And you know what's really creepy? Her mother's name was Pat. Her mother, Pat, died of cancer. I think it was cancer. My mother's name was Pat, who also died of cancer. Not the same year, I don't think. That would have been really creepy. But we both have a mother named Pat who died of cancer, which is kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt. I was a big Jennifer Love Hewitt fan. I'd rather see a sequel with her. Not just because it's her, but I think that's, I don't know, it just feels like with all the, and you don't have to put it to theaters and throw it, to Netflix or something. I don't know. A series though, is anybody really excited about this? Do we actually think this series is going to be great? Does anybody honestly think this series is going to be great? Like what's going to be like, in 5 years from now, it's going to be like, did you see the 6th season of I Know What You Did Last Summer? Are we really gonna, what's the end game? What's the shelf life of this? Is it really series worthy? I don't know. I guess maybe if you dive into the backstory of the fisherman, and I don't know. I'm not excited. I'm not excited, but I'm not I don't know. Yeah, I'm indifferent, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. David Lee Barron, $9.99 super chat says, Dear Dr. Motherforker, I love your idea. Let's pull all the major cult leaders in the world who think they're the next Jesus, put them in an empty room, press record, and watch what happens. Can you imagine? Can you imagine putting them on? No, I'm Jesus. No, I'm Jesus. I'm fucking Jesus, you son of a bitch. That'd be funny. That'd really be funny, actually. Super chat from Intel Wild. Thanks, buddy. Says, hey, Dave, any It's Me, Billy news for us? No, nothing. I mean, the film, it's in post-production. The assembly edit is still being assembled. We are probably halfway through the assembly edit, and things are looking good. Once the assembly, I'm doing the sound design in conjunction with the assembly edit. Once the assembly edit is locked, and that's just basically we have sort of a first cut of the movie, then we go through it and we figure out maybe if we want to shave this off or take that out completely or whatever the case is. I don't think there's going to be too much of that because it's a short film. So there's not a lot of material to use or to leave out. And like Halloween, which was a feature, but like Tommy Lee Wallace said with Halloween, it was a pretty tight ship. There wasn't a lot of fat that was trimmed. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of fat that's going to be trimmed with It's Me, Billy. It was a pretty tight ship. We knew exactly what we wanted, and we executed accordingly. So there wasn't, and it's not like there were tons of takes from different angles. Now let's get a shot. And how about here? And how about here? And how about it? There's really not a lot of fat. So yeah, I don't think that process will take too long. But then once the sound design and the picture lock is, of course, is in order, then it has to go through the color grading process. And that takes a bit of time because you have to color grade each scene and match it. You have to make sure every scene matches accordingly. And of course, we'll be working with our DP with that as well. So it's just, it's in post-production. It's in post-production, and it's looking good though. It's looking good. It's looking good. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I don't want to say, there's so much that I can't wait to talk about in regards to It's Me, Billy, our intentions with It's Me, Billy, the reasons for our creative choices with It's Me, Billy, and so many other things I can't wait to talk about with you. And I know Bruce feels the same way. But we have to wait till after the release to do that. But yeah, it's looking good. It's looking good. David Lee Barron sends in a $4.99 super chat, says, isn't a remake the same as a reimagine, and reboot is picking up where the story left off? I have a video on my channel, David, where I talk about the differences between a reboot, a remake, and a reimagining. A reboot is different than a remake. I'd have to go into my video again and is a remake, isn't a remake the same as a reimagine? The answer is no, because a remake is a reimagine is a remake, but a remake isn't necessarily a reimagine. It would depend on how different, like Rob Zombie's Halloween, from 2007 is a remake, but it's also a reimagine. And it's also a reboot. It's all three, right? It's all three. Halloween 2018 is not a reimagine and not a remake, but it is a reboot. Right. All reboot means is you're just restarting. You're closing down, restarting. Think of it as like rebooting your computer. We've all heard that before, right? What do you do when you reboot your computer? You start again. You know what I mean? You sort of, you start fresh. You know what I'm saying? It's really a matter of semantics at the end of the day, but there are tiny nuanced differences. And if you just Google Dave McCrae, it's a video from like a couple of years ago. If you Google Dave McCrae reboot, remake, or whatever, it should come up. Actually, let me just do that. I think it's still on my channel. Let me see what's on. Dave McCrae reboot, remake. Here we go. It's from 2 years ago. Reboot versus remake, what's the difference? Okay, this is from, it's from the 9th of July, 2018, when I had my old setup. You'll fucking find this hilarious. But I think I do a pretty good job. So I talk about reboot and remake. I don't know if I mention reimagine or not, but there you go, David, right there. That'll take you to it. And it's just easier because it's all right there. To go into it here would be a little hard, but just know that at the end of the day, it is a semantics issue. However, there are differences, and you actually, when you go into it, you can actually find the differences. And there's articles online that talk about this too. Think Piece is all about it. It's crazy. Dude says, Dave, do you think Ghostbusters Afterlife will get pushed to fall? Did you hear the Halloween Kills release date rumors? I hear late. I got here late, by the way. Do I think Ghostbusters? I think anything's on the table right now. I do. Despite what Jason Blum said, ultimately it's not up to, well, I'm not saying he doesn't have sway, but at the end of the day, Blumhouse isn't the distributor. They are the production company. Universal Pictures is the distributor. So if Universal Pictures doesn't want to distribute the movie in theaters in the fall, they won't do it. Now, does that mean that it goes to streaming? I don't know. But I think because of sort of the landscape and the climate right now, I think anything's on the table. I mean, we just saw, what is it, move to the fall? I mean, I think the fall is still okay at the moment, like it was this time last year, or in March and April when the pandemic first began. I said the fall was okay, and the fall will become problematic once we start moving into June and July. And I think that is still the case. I think the Halloween release date, 2021, unless there is something, unless there is just an agreement from the studios or, I think if the fall is going to be a problem, we're going to know it's going to be a problem when we get into the spring again. Like we did last year, like, May, June, then we'll start to see, because then we'll have a better idea of, what's going on with COVID, what's happening with the vaccine. But do I think Ghostbusters Afterlife will be moved? Probably. Yeah, probably. And it wouldn't surprise me if it was moved into next year. It would not surprise me if these big tentpole films, and I don't consider Halloween I consider Halloween a big film in the sense that it has the potential to make, a few $100 million. And they know that because of Halloween 18. But it didn't cost a lot to make. So in relation to its cost to make, you might be able to sell Halloween to Netflix, sell it for whatever, make the money that you think you would have made in the theater, and then, call it a day. And then Netflix reaps the benefits of Halloween Kills on Netflix. And it's an easy movie to do. With somebody like, something like Bond, which costs like $250 million to make, you've got to sell that thing to Netflix or Amazon or wherever for like $700 million. $700 million for that. That's what you would have to do. That's what is it Paramount or Warner Brothers? That's what they would have to do. Or is it still Sony? Fuck, I can't remember. That's what they would have to do in order for Bond to be profitable, is that they look at, okay, what do we think Bond would have made, or what we would have made in terms of, Bond may have been $1 billion film, but in terms of net profit, we think it'd be this much. Okay, well, that's what we'll try to sell. And nobody wanted it. Netflix didn't want it. Nobody wanted to spend, what was it, $600 million or something like that? Nobody wanted it. But that's because it's a $250 million movie. You wouldn't necessarily have to sell it for that much. Halloween Kills I'm talking about. So it's an ever evolving, ever changing thing. What we think is the landscape today can change on a dime tomorrow. There's a lot of variables at play. To stop my tangent here, I do think that there is still a high probability at this stage of the game that every single movie, including Halloween Kills, that is supposed to be coming out in the theaters this year will not. Now, whether that means some will get picked up and go to streaming, that's likely, but that doesn't mean that Netflix and Amazon and Hulu or whatever are going to pick up everything. You know what I mean? We'll buy Bond, we'll buy Kills, we'll buy Ghostbusters, it's just too much money. So yeah, I still, despite what Blum said, I still think there is a very good chance that you will not see Halloween Kills in theaters this year. If they want, I think it's possible. Now, whether that goes to streaming, that's a whole other thing. And it's unfortunate. There's still a good chance the fall is, 10 months away, but I still think it's possible. I think it's possible, especially right now. Neil Rook says, hello, my mate. Is there anything you can tell us about the actor who plays Billy in your film? Or what was the audition process like for Billy? Great question. Well, I don't want to give too much away. Billy, the actor that plays Billy, the actual physical presence of Billy, who is also, I'm the voice of Billy on the telephone. That's not a spoiler alert. That's not a secret. It's all over IMDb. It's in the, we've advertised that. But that doesn't mean that we are not utilizing some of his vocal presence as well, because we are. So although I am the vast majority of Billy on the phone, probably 90% or something, we are using some of him as well. But of course, I'm not playing Billy because I'm not old enough. So I can tell you he's in his late 60s. His audition was great. And Billy was probably one of the tougher people to cast. And he's a sweetheart of a guy. He's a sweetheart of a guy. I mean, he had to be one of the most evil people in the world while working on set. And he was so attentive and so tender to the ladies. And it was so great. And, you know, having that kind of working relationship, because I mean, there's, you know, 45 years between Billy and the girls. I mean, he's old enough to be their grandfather. So that was nice to have that kind of relationship. He's just a funny guy. He's just a funny guy, and funny in the sense of that he's just sweet, nice, professional. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you much more because I want the anonymity and the mystique of Billy to remain. That doesn't mean that after the movie comes out that his name won't, appear on things, or we won't, even do an interview with him, because I don't necessarily want to keep him in shadow forever. But just in the lead up to the release of the movie, just kind of keep him as ambiguous as we possibly can. But I can just tell you that he's a very nice man, very professional. The audition was great, and he was a total pro on set. So, and he did great. And he's got a great look, because you have to remember that this is Billy, 45, nearly 50 years later. So what does he look like now? What does somebody with that type of mental illness, if they are still alive today, what do they look like? What's their demeanor? What's their presence like? Yeah, we're really, really happy with it. Really happy with the choice. David Lee Barron says, do you believe in testimonial time travel stories? Or are they bullshit? Like, do I believe in time? Like, you just mean people who've said they've time traveled? I don't know. I mean, they're fun to look into. I think there's a lot of weird fucking shit that goes on in this world. And I do believe, I don't believe that everything is bullshit, but I don't believe everything's the truth either. And I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. It sounds like such a cop-out answer, but I think there is truth to that. I think that there are people in this world that absolutely believe in the stories they're telling, whether that's alien. They experienced something. There is something they experienced. I don't know what that is, whether it's ghosts, whether it's alien abduction, whether it's Bigfoot, whatever. Pick your mystery. And they are, they're telling the truth about what they experienced and saw. B, they are credible people, functioning members of society that have no history of doing this, have no reason to do it, are not profiting off of it. They're just telling their story. This fucking happened. I'm dead fucking serious. I don't know what the fuck just happened. 100%. And and a lot of the times you're like, that is weird. That is weird. I believe those things exist. Yep. 100%. Because I can tell you that I lived through it myself to a degree with my experience in my second year of college, which is the feature film that I've been writing for the last 20 years. Can't believe it's been 20 years. Based on our experiences in regards to a house and, paranormal and things like that. So I do believe that there is more to this world than meets the eye. I believe that there are things in this world that there's more than what we see. There is, I don't know if you want to call it supernatural, different dimensions, whatever you want to say. I do believe that there is enough circumstantial evidence that exists, at the very least, that suggests that this should be looked into seriously. But I also believe that there's a lot of charlatans out there. They're just fucking bullshit. Absolutely. There are. Right? So it's like somewhere in the middle for me. So, I've heard some interesting time travel stories. But I mean, I don't know what that would be, right? Because we know that time travel physically is impossible. So is it a wormhole that they've gone through? Is it a portal? I mean, I don't know. It sounds very science fiction-y, right? what I find really fascinating, and I think I talked about this on an episode of MCRAE Live, and is we know we can't time travel into the past, at least not yet, but we actually can time travel into the future. We actually can do that. That's really cool. And of course, you can't come back from that though, right? Like if you travel at the speed of, like if we actually had a spaceship or whatever that could travel at the speed of light, which by the way is like extraordinarily slow for a lot of the things we need to do. But if we travel at the speed of light for like, and I'm not exact on the science here, but you'll get what I'm talking about. Like if we traveled at the speed of light for, 10 years or something, right? Because this is the theory of relativity, or it's the time thing. And so if we travel at the speed of light for 10 years, we will age by 10 years, right? So let's say myself and David Lee Barron, we jump into a spaceship and we travel at the speed of light for 10 years and we go across the galaxy, right? Or 5 years there, 5 years back. Okay. It's a hell of a 10 years, man. And you and I will have aged 10 years. So I don't know how old you are, David, but I will be 51. That's crazy. I'll be 51 in 10 years. It just sucks. Anyway, I'll be 51. But everybody on Earth, all our friends, will be dead because 50 years will have passed on Earth or something like that. Well, maybe not dead for you if you're in your 20s, but for me, they'd be all dead. And it's like we were just gone for 10 years, but we come back and the world is so different. That's a form of time travel. It is. And this theory of relativity has been proven. This has been proven. So it exists, not proven to that degree, but they've done minor tests and experiments in this way and have proven that is kind of how it works. Like when astronauts go to the space station, and we know this for a fact, when they come back, they're actually, what is it, like point something microseconds younger than they were, or behind everybody else, like a 0.5 of a microsecond behind everybody. It's crazy. It's crazy, right? It's really, really weird. So that I find cool. I've always found that kind of thing really fascinating. Really, really fascinating. I don't know. Bullshit. I think there's a lot of bullshit out there. That's for sure. Eric Chung says, Dave, which cheesy opening song from the Friday the 13th series is the best? For me, it's The Man with No Light in His Eyes, or the theme from part 3. The Man with No Light in His Eyes. What Friday the 13th was that? I was just going to say part 3. It's the only really, because it's very, yeah, I'll say part 3. I'll say part 3. That's what I'll say. I'll say part 3. Yes. Let me see here. What do we got? Chris Beecham says, can't wait for It's Me, Billy Dave. Gonna be epic. I just know it. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Hope everybody thinks it's epic. I don't know. Let me see here. We're scrolling. Warren Armour says, that guy, Jeff Goldberg, tried time travel and morphed into the fly that was caught in the mechanism. Yeah. Well, he tried, and look what happened. He turned into a fly, and everything just went to shit. So, what are you going to do? David again follows up with another question, says, do you have an opinion about what actually happened to the real Emily Rose? Was there dark forces at play or severe mental breakdown, scary stuff? I saw The Exorcism of Emily Rose in the theater when it came out in 2005. I really liked it. I haven't watched it. I don't even think I've watched it since, but I liked it. I remember thinking it was good. Again, I think we talked about this before, David. If it wasn't you, it was somebody else. Look, I know if you're very religious and you're Christian and you are a practicing Christian, depending on what, you believe in heaven and hell and the devil and God and all that, and could believe in the devil possessing somebody. I tend to not believe that. I think that more often than not, this is a case of mental illness. That maybe even the person being possessed has convinced even themselves, because of their mental illness, that they are possessed. So they believe it and act accordingly, but they don't feel like they're acting. They're just responding naturally. So it seems very authentic and genuine because they've convinced themselves of it. But are there weird and unusual stories again about creepy things? Yeah, of course. Of course there are. Of course there are. But in order to be able to just believe that, in order for me to believe that demon possession is real, I have to believe that the Christianity version of hell is real, or that demons are real. I have to believe that there is a demonic, evil dimension that just wants to be evil. You know what I mean? And pitchforks and lava and blood and, not necessarily like that. But I mean, I have to believe, because if I don't, then what is it then, right? I have to be able to explain it, So I'm not a religious person. I don't tend to believe in the traditional Christianity version of events. No offense to those who do. But so it's difficult for me to say that there are demons in the world that just come in and possess usually women, and they make Hollywood movies about it. I think the idea is scary, and I think there is when you do read about certain things in the world, certain events and certain stories, there are peculiar things that happen. Absolutely, 100%. And, maybe it is true, right? I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I don't know. I don't know. And, I wouldn't say that I'm atheist, maybe more agnostic maybe, but I'm definitely not afraid to say, I don't know. I have no idea. How could I know? I don't. And neither do you. You can say because of what you believe, but I've often said having a belief in something, and I said this not because of religion. I don't know if I've coined this quote, but I've never heard anybody else say it. And I started saying this when I was, after my experience in my second year of college, because I knew how important evidence was, or I started to know how important evidence was. And it's hard to have evidence on anything supernatural, right? But I started to say that people can believe whatever they want. And sometimes that's a good thing, to believe in things, right? To 100%. There's nothing wrong with it. Especially if you're not like, a crazy cult leader, right? There's nothing wrong with it. And I celebrate that. But having a belief in something, the belief in and of itself isn't evidence of that something's existence. Do you know what I mean? So I've always been that kind of a person where it's like, like I right now can say, I do believe that there is probably some sort of dimension or realm after death. I don't believe in the Christianity version of it, that we die and all of a sudden we wake up and we're with our friends and family and our dog and we're hanging out on a cloud. And, that's not exactly I don't think that's probably, but in terms of, does consciousness survive the process of death? I think there's a wealth of circumstantial evidence at least that point to maybe. But what that is, I don't know. And I'm not afraid to say I don't know, but I think it's really cool and I think it's worth looking into. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody who is religious. I celebrate that. You have to believe what you have to believe. And if it makes you happy and carries you through to the end where we're all going, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But this is how I feel. So in regards to like demons and possessions and stuff, I think it's probably more than likely a severe case of mental illness. But who knows? I don't know. Right? I don't know. It's crazy. David follows up again with, Dear Dr. Pichet, I am a doctor, thank you. Which would you give up for life? Pineapple pizza or Halloween 78? For life? Ooh, I'd probably give up pineapple pizza because I don't eat pizza that often anyway. But we did have, by the way, when we shot It's Me, Billy, for those of you that have been keeping up on the production and the lead up, you'll get this. We did order pizza the first night we were there, and because the caterer didn't come till the next morning, right? So we ordered pizza, and we ordered. God, there was so many. I think we ordered like 10 pizzas or something. I mean, there was a ton of people. So maybe, excuse me, maybe not 10 pizzas. Maybe it was six or seven. Anyway, and pineapple pizza was one of them. And I took out a piece and I was like, Bruce, look, Bruce. He's like, yeah. So I think myself, Victoria, and a few others, we just ate it all. Because we like pineapple on our pizza. How can you not like pineapple on your pizza? Pineapple on pizza is great. It's great. It's great. So yeah, I could give up pineapple on pizza because I don't eat it very often anyway. Halloween would be hard to give up. Halloween would be hard to give up because I like watching that at least once a year at some point. I can go a whole year without eating pizza. Okay, we'll go for another 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I'll take this thing to 1:30. And also, folks, tomorrow as well, MCRAE Live will be 12 p.m. tomorrow as well. And that's because I have an appointment at 10:30 tomorrow morning. So I don't think I'll be back in time for 11. So just giving the heads up that tomorrow will be 12 p.m. as well. And I'm contemplating on there's going to be some changes coming this year and to the channel in terms of scheduling and where I want to put certain things and all that kind of stuff. So be prepared for that this year, 2021 may or may not see, I may not do the show 3 days a week, may have to, do it 2 days. It all depends on what's happening, but I want to solidify a proper schedule so I'm not canceling and restarting all the time. Just as things get busier and I just want to keep the channel fresh. Maybe I want to introduce something else as well, you know what I mean? And just kind of keep it fresh. So just a heads up that to look out for those things in the near future. David Lee Barron says, I'm going on my first PA job soon. Any advice? Amazing. Well, a PA, of course, is a production assistant, and you are kind of a jack of all trades. No, well, you're not a jack of all trades, obviously, but you are at the mercy of what they need you to do. So if you need to, David, I'll just say this: be professional, be polite. Not that you wouldn't be, but professional, polite, on time, and great attitude, positive. And always doing something, right? Never just be standing around, not doing anything. If you've done your jobs and they don't need you to do anything, maybe ask somebody, hey, do you need me to take some behind the scenes photos? If nobody's taking any behind the scenes photos or video, maybe ask somebody, do you want me to take some behind the scenes photos? Do you want me to take some video? While I've done this, I've done that, I've run around the corner and gotten the thing you needed from the store. I've done this, whatever the case is. And don't be afraid to always be willing to, and if they don't need you to do anything and they just want you to sit tight and just, chill for a bit, they'll tell you. But yeah, a PA is a really important job. I can tell you, I've always known that. I've been a PA before, years and years ago. And, our production assistant on It's Me, Billy, was a girl by the name of Emma, and she was great. She was on time, meeting the caterer every morning. And there were times where we would be shooting a scene and we would cut, and then we'd realize we'd need something. Maybe we needed more bottles of water, or maybe we needed more whatever. And I would break out the walkie-talkie to radio to Emma, who I thought was downstairs, 3 floors and not, in another part of the mansion. And I'd go, Dave, to Emma, and she'd go, yes. And she'd be right beside me. And I'd go, oh my God, you're right there. That's amazing. And she's like, yes, what do you need? Right. And so she was very attentive, very, very much there, didn't get in the way, just kind of there. Like she knew her role. She knew her job. You are somebody, whatever they need you to do, you do. And it's a great experience. You're going to have, if you have the right attitude and the right mindset, you'll have a ball. It's a lot of hard work. It's not glitzy. It's not glamorous, but you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot and observe. Don't be afraid to, observe, right? Observe what people are doing, what they're saying, listen, pay attention. You're on a film set, right? You'll do well. Intel Wild says, pineapple on pizza, barf. Oh, Intel and Bruce, you can start your own club. Amazing. I love pineapple on pizza. Simon says, hi, Dave. My brother used to live in Toronto. Very cool. He asked me, have you heard of the Milwaukee Wolverine. The Milwaukee Wolverine? No. Is that a restaurant or something? Let me just Google this. Is that something in Toronto? The Milwaukee Wolverine. Let's see here. The Milwaukee Oh, no, I'm just looking. Oh, no, no. Are you guys in? Okay, so maybe it has nothing to do with Toronto and you just were, that was a separate question. The Milwaukee Wolverine. Is he Canadian? The guy that plays him? I've never, I'm seeing photos of him right now. It's fucking hilarious. No, I've never heard of this guy. Never heard of this guy. So, is he a serial killer? He might be, folks. He might be. I've never heard of him. That's funny. That's really great. Da Man Hammer AR-15 says, Sir Dave of Toronto, have you seen the Sacrament 2013? It's another cult movie. It's Spit on My Neck. Fantastic, but that's just my humblest of humble opinions, of course. I haven't. I've never heard of it. I'll have to check it out. I did watch the what was the cult movie? The Name of My Voice, or the something, whatever. I forget it now. I did watch that one a while. I've seen Midsummer, that one. There's a few others I've seen. I mean, you could even say that obviously Hereditary had that angle as well. You know, that was about a cult too. And it's just crazy to think that as you know, because it's movies, right? And you're watching it in a dramatic narrative. But it's crazy to think that these things actually do exist. They actually happen. They're happening right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. David Lee Barron says, gracias for the advice. Super excited. By the way, have you seen The Mosquito Coast? Have I seen The Mosquito Coast? David, where have you been? It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of my favorite Harrison Ford movies of all time. It's his too, one of his too. The Mosquito Coast is great, directed by Peter Weir, starring Harrison Ford, Helen Mirren, the late River Phoenix, of course. Yes, I love, if you guys have not seen The Mosquito Coast and you want to see Harrison Ford in one of his best roles where he flexes his acting chops, watch The Mosquito Coast. 86, I think, somewhere around there. Fantastic movie. And did you know they're remaking it? I did not know that. Not surprised by that. I haven't heard about that. I have not heard about that. No, I have not heard about that. So I am not surprised. Not surprised, but haven't heard about it. Yeah. Tom Mongurian says, Black Christmas 2019 was a great cult movie. Yeah, well, it was about a cult, a fraternity cult, but you're right. You are absolutely correct. It definitely was about a cult. That's for sure. All right, folks, listen, that is going to do it for me here on episode 134 of MCRAE Live. I appreciate all the super chats that came in today, of course, the non-super chat questions. Thank you to Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Frank Riker. For doing what you guys do. I really appreciate it, of course. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow, but tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for MCRAE Live. As I said, I have an appointment tomorrow that I have to attend to, and I don't think I'll be back in time. So, and if you have not seen the invitation, check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And if you have seen the invitation, then please comment below and let me know your thoughts on it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? I'd like to know. Comment below and let me know. All right, folks, have a great rest of your Thursday, and I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.